Last week, we talked about the 70s and 80s, where the power of the religious right failed to impose their moral judgment on us all. Their efforts to ban offensive music, art, movies, control school curriculum, and define marriage for all of us crashed and burned as indictments for fraud, accusation of sexual misconduct, and marital infidelity revealed their blather to be nothing more than hypocritical bullshit after all.
This is not mind control. Think about it.
Well, the calls for silencing speech, marginalizing gays, women, Jews, and anyone that disagrees with them are still coming from the religious right. Only this time it's coming from Islam. And for whatever reason, the left seems to be quite okay with it.
Liberals should stop booing me for pointing out that Islam is not like other religions, that is a unique threat.
This is to my point about the connecting tissue.
Mm-hmm.
If, like you said, you wouldn't join the Ku Klux Klan, but you were a big fan, what would I conclude from that?
شلون عم تبعتي بناتك يا ابن امك؟ واحدة 9 سنوات وواحدة 7 سنوات صغار على الجهاد هذول.
ما عاد في حدا صغير لأنه هلا الجهاد فرض على كل مسلم كبير وصغير.
It's the only religion that acts like the mafia that will fucking kill you if you say the wrong thing, draw the wrong picture, or write the wrong book.
Christopher, isn't it possible to fear Islam or some aspects of it and be free of hate and not be a bigot?
Well, phobia, I think, as well as meaning fear, does imply dislike, and I dislike Islam as I dislike all religion.
Last year, a Pakistan-born Canadian Member of Parliament named Iqra Khalid introduced a motion in Canada's House of Commons to ban criticism of Islam.
That seeks a, quote, whole-of-government approach to, quote, eliminating Islamophobia without ever defining the term Islamophobia.
If they were beheading people in Vatican City, which is the equivalent of Mecca, don't you think there'd be a bigger outcry about it? So this is the soft bigotry of low expectations that we have with Muslim people. Yeah. When they do crazy things and believe crazy things, somehow it's just not talked about nearly as much.
So why is it that, like most polarizing issues, people will choose a set of principles that they'll defend to the point of stupid, but refuse to apply those same principles equally? Not all Muslims, right? Well, of course not. Well, not all Christians either, or not all atheists, not all Democrats, not all Republicans, not all conservatives, not all liberals, not all women, not all men, not all white people, not all brown people, not all immigrants, right? That alone should tell you how easily manipulated we are to take hard positions that directly contradict our own principles. That's called being a hypocrite. And for whatever reason, we tolerate hypocrisy and double standards provided that they're our own and apply to our own team. But never if it's those idiot Republicans or those moron Democrats, right? In 2014, Brendan Eich became CEO of Mozilla Firefox, a company that he created. But in just a few short days, he was forced to resign. Internet social justice sleuths had found that 6 years earlier, Eich had supported California's Proposition 8. It was a referendum that banned gay marriage in California. And the referendum passed with a fairly comfortable majority. Gay rights activists demanded that Eich either recant his support of traditional marriage or step down. Eich had said that he had kept his beliefs out of his business for the previous 15 years and that they're completely irrelevant to his position with Mozilla. Well, that just wasn't good enough. CEO Brendan Eich should make an unequivocal statement of support for marriage equality. A petition signed by almost 75,000 people said, if he cannot, he should resign. And if he will not, the board should fire him immediately. Under the vast power of those that simply disagreed with Eich's beliefs, he stepped down. Interestingly, as of 2008, President Obama and Hillary Clinton had openly opposed gay marriage. Did they suffer the loss of their livelihood, their positions, their standing in the community as Ike did? Nope. Mozilla issued a series of press releases touting how their culture of openness extends to encouraging staff and community to share their beliefs and opinions in public. Unless, of course, that culture of openness includes the wrong kind of beliefs and opinions. Actor Chris Hemsworth, best known for his role as Thor, made the horrific mistake of dressing as a Native American for a Halloween party. The social media retribution was swift. Hemsworth apologized very carefully for this potentially job-killing infraction. In December of 2018, comedian Kevin Hart had reached a career high, having been invited to host the Academy Awards. This is a big deal. Then some of his old homophobic tweets had surfaced. Likely under pressure to properly handle the situation, Hart stepped down, apologizing for these 8-year-old tweets. Hart also received criticism of his homophobia as a part of his comedy show. These people clearly violated the new religious left's blasphemy laws. This is why you don't see names like Jerry Seinfeld, Bill Maher, Chris Rock, or Larry the Cable Guy playing colleges anymore. They may offend somebody, and that might cost them their careers. About 35 years ago, a group of law school professors invented a new classification of expression that, according to them, falls outside of the protection of the First Amendment. The term hate speech was created out of thin air and defined as speech that attacks, threatens, or insults a person or group on the basis of national origin, ethnicity, color, religion, gender identity, sexual orientation, or disability. Let us go exploring into the jungles of social media to see if we can bag some hate speech. Twitter is openly contemptuous of free speech, known for banning users or suspending their accounts for violating their ambiguous, hateful conduct rules. Really. A Twitter verified account, denoted by the little blue check mark, lets people know that an account of public interest has been verified as authentic. These are famous people, commentators, authors, etc. A quick search of #verified hate shows us how subjectively Twitter applies its hateful conduct rules, especially, it seems, among its verified community. Wow. Aren't these comments hateful? Are these tweets not bigoted? They're at the very least inappropriate, some even inciting violence. Why haven't these people been banned or suspended for their hateful conduct? Redefining terms subjectively to suit the necessity of your ideological needs may help you get away with it. Racism has long been defined as the belief in the superiority of one race over another, which often results in discrimination and prejudice towards people based on their race or ethnicity. Since the late 20th century, the notion of biological race has been recognized as a cultural invention entirely without scientific basis. Well, this definition is inconvenient because it means that anybody can be a racist. Oh, and the idea that some people are inherently racist then doesn't fly either. The fact is that whiteness, brownness, blackness, or yellowness, or redness are all peripheral to conduct, not the cause of it, unless we can change the definition of racism to make it work the way we need it to. I've got it!
Life, do you hear me? Give my creation life!
The new definition of racism is prejudice with the conveniently added proviso of power. So a racist is now someone that holds these prejudicial views of someone that looks different from them, but also has power over them. Now anyone can make hateful racist statements, but will not be held accountable for them. Brilliant! Except for white people, I guess. In the first week of December of 2018, YouTube socio-political commentator Sargon of Akkad, aka Carl Benjamin, discovered that his Patreon account was closed with very little explanation, affecting his ability to earn his living. His crime? In an argument with white supremacists some time ago, off of his own channel and not held on his Patreon account, Sargon made a comment using a racial slur that was taken out of context and deemed to be hateful. And a good parishioner of the new religious left saw to it that justice was swift. Sargon then moved from Patreon to Subscribestar. It's an alternative. In just a few days, PayPal refused to do business with Subscribestar, again harming the content creators' ability to get paid for their work. I find it particularly interesting that Antifa still has their Patreon account. This is a group that is labeled as a terrorist organization by the Department of Homeland Security. Caleb Rosado, Department of Urban Studies at Eastern University, argues that discrimination is the unequal treatment of individuals or groups on the basis of some usually categorical attribute, such as race, ethnicity, gender, religion, sexual orientation, age, or social class membership. Prejudice is an attitude. When it results in action, it becomes discrimination, and both together form the basis for racism. Prejudice, he argues, is an attitudinal bias, while discrimination is a behavioral bias. Well, can it then not be argued that people have lost their jobs, their standing in the community, their livelihoods because of someone else's interpretation of their opinions, beliefs, and ideals? Would this not then constitute the definition of power over someone? If these incidents took place over social media, new public square, would that not be considered institutional? By the definitions that we just discussed, this is most certainly racism. Last summer, the New York Times hired Harvard Law School graduate Sarah Zhang to the editorial board. Shortly thereafter, a Twitter account named Human Garbage published a screenshot showing a collection of Zhang's old tweets that contained racially inflammatory language. That being the case, could it not be said that the words of Sarah Zhang are constituted as hate speech by its very definition? An article in the decidedly leftist Daily Dot makes these distinctions quite clear. The New York Times made headlines when it fired reporter Norton Quinn after old tweets resurfaced by the writer using derogatory names for African Americans and gays and touting friendships with neo-Nazis. So why is the paper standing by Zhang while Quinn got the boot? The answer is simple, because Quinn is white and Zhang is a person of color in a system of white supremacy, which is what America was founded on and continues to be. It is impossible to be truly racist against white people. Of course! Racism has now been redefined so broadly enough to fit this narrative. Convenient. The New York Times chose to address the controversy by issuing a statement of support for Zhang. The paper described the tweets as an in-kind response by Zhang to the harassment she herself received. Is this not the same situation in which Sargon of Akkad found himself? In the incident that got Sargon deplatformed, he had used the slurs in question as a defense against the white supremacists that were attacking him. And Patreon still chose to shut him out, costing him his paycheck and untold difficulty in his career. How is this any different from Sarah Zhang's defense? Well, the obvious difference is his race and his gender. Can we then agree that he is the victim of discrimination based on these immutable characteristics? Or is it because of those characteristics that he is not judged by the same standards as Sarah Zhang? It seems to me that he was clearly the victim of racism. How is that possible? The people that he offended have power over him. And according to our conveniently revised definition of racism, that makes them racists. A recent article in the decidedly non-right-wing Vox reports that researchers have found that calling people racists does not have a reductive effect on racial bias. What? Calling people names doesn't help solve problems? No! In fact, the researchers stumbled across a truly innovative, radical, and unheard of tactic for reducing bigotry. Wait for it. Wait for it. Almost. Okay. So what is this secret formula, this magic charm, this humanity-changing discovery that is truly effective in the reduction of bigoted ideals? A conversation. Telling people that they're racist, sexist, and xenophobic is going to get you exactly nowhere, said Alana Connor, executive director of Stanford University's Social Psychological Answers to Real-World Questions Center. Man, that's a mouthful. She goes on to say, it is such a threatening message. One of the things that we know from social psychology is that when people feel threatened, they can't change. They can't listen. No f***ing way. In my own social psychology class at university last year, I wrote a paper that argued this very idea. Stop using divisive language. Find commonality and understanding, and the results will change. But then I was told that since I was directing the conversation, it was just a sign of my privilege. That it wasn't up to me to decide how best to solve this problem because I couldn't possibly understand what it means to be marginalized. You know what? If it means that we can move past this issue and find a way to understand each other and maybe create some solutions, great, fine. Agreement isn't even necessary in a conversation if the goal of that conversation is understanding each other, so that then action to solve the problems can be negotiated. And that can't happen at all unless we can focus on solutions rather than this endless saturating of our discussions with the problems that we have. It doesn't take much to find examples of what can happen when powerful people decide that the value of an individual is based on their group membership and not their individual merit. And when that terrible idea is then not only accepted by just the powerful, but the masses, the results are catastrophic. Next week on the Skeptic Tank, we will continue our exploration of the new religious left's sacramental social double standards as determined by the saints of social media. If I got something wrong, left something out, missed something, made a mistake, please let me know. I'm always happy to correct bad information with better information. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. It helps us out. We're trying to build a channel here and we need your help to do it. And as always, I'm interested in knowing what it is that you think.
Asshole! You're an asshole! And you know it!